Hello, this is Dr. Hanji and welcome to Double Narratives. Now there's depression everywhere and there are usually causes of depression, but a very popular mixed cause of depression that cuts through all ages and all gender and all nationality is when you suffer an emotional heartbreak from a relationship. Now, emotional heartbreak is popularly referred to as breakfast. So on this episode of Double Narratives, we will be looking at what do you do after breakfast, the positive and the negative sides of breakfast. Click on the notification icon and please subscribe to my channel. Welcome back. Now, let me quickly give you a side gist. Some months back, I was in a classroom scenario with a group of young teenagers and we're talking about slangs, and one of them mentioned breakfast, and there I was totally at loss and I was asking them what is breakfast, and they all started laughing at me. Eventually they let me in on the gist that breakfast is the slang, of course, that popularly describes when you have a breakup in a relationship. So of course, moving forward, I've heard it in songs, everybody will eat breakfast, and I want to just look today at really breakfast is an important experience that we must have at some point in our lifetime. It's also important to look at breakfast because it's an integral part of a developmental process, especially for young people. It is also a major cause of depression. And so it should not be looked at as just something by the side, but it must be looked at from a very serious perspective. And that is what we want to do today. So on Double Narratives today, we want to look at what next after breakfast. I will be right back. Now, the first thing I need you to understand is nobody outgrows breakfast. I have had my own share of breakfast. As a matter of fact, I shared my breakfast experience with a group of young people sometimes, and they had a good laugh at me. So we all, from time to time, pass through breakfast. So fundamentally, I think the first thing we need to understand is breakfast is part of our developmental process. From time to time, we go into relationship with very high expectations, and those expectations might or mightn't be met. And whatever happens, we feel devastated and altogether thrown, self-esteem is affected because we feel it's because of who we are or what we are brought on the table that has made the opposite sex or the partner in the relationship serve us hot, steaming breakfast. So you need to understand it's absolutely normal. It's a part of life to, at one point or the other, disagree with anybody you are involved in an intimate or emotional relationship. Now, having said that, you also need to understand that breakfast might seem like a loss in your self-esteem, but you need to raise your shoulder off that and understand that it is not a function of you. It is a function of the fact that you cannot have a seamless relationship, or you cannot come to agreement with the next person. And it's only normal. It's not everybody you meet that you eventually realize you can go the long haul with. You realize that in some cases, and it's not a function of you, it's just something that happens. From time to time, we venture into different kinds of relationships with very high hopes. And sometimes those hopes are dashed against the wall. And it's okay to mourn your loss. It's okay to feel depressed. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a process that everybody must go through. So from time to time, when you're served breakfast and you have a heartbreak, you just need to come to the state of realization. And guess what? There are positive sides to heartbreaks, and you just need to see the sunny side of the whole scenario. The first thing is understanding that breakfast is normal, and then breakfast gives you a renewed perspective about yourself. And that renewed perspective, you must make sure is very positive. Positive because the same reason one man will leave you, another will marry you. And so there is absolutely nothing wrong with, reappraising the situation and of course being very objective when you do. You only need to come to the drawing board to say, okay, what exactly transpired? You need to understand that it doesn't mean that something is necessarily wrong with you. Yes, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Just know that relationship is like a jigsaw puzzle, and it just has to fit, and sometimes it just doesn't fit. And so you need to see that a end of relationship or a heartbreak is always a most of the time something that makes you better. So guess what? Rejection doesn't necessarily mean you're not good enough. It simply means it's a chisel to help you to achieve perfection. So the next thing you want to do is you want to reappraise. And you know what break up does for you? You realize that you can count on some support system. Sometimes when you've never faced a heartbreak, you don't know those you can run to for support, because oftentimes we need support at that period of our life. Now, let me tell you what, the breakfast I experienced as a teenager, I remembered myself laying up on a couch and I didn't want to get up from that couch forever. I thought the world should just come to an end immediately. But guess what? The world is not going to come to an end. But I also found that I could find support in people. And that's what next you're going to learn from when you have breakfast. You can find support in friends, you can find in your parents. Don't forget, I did an episode earlier on, talking to parents and talking to people who can be confident and who can give you a fantastic support when you're going through your lows. Life cannot be walked alone. You need support structure from time to time. And one time to leverage on the support structure you have is when you suffer a depressing time as a function of having a broken relationship. Now, also realize that after a heartbreak, you want to try as much as possible to channel your energy into some other sort of relationship. I never would advise that you should jump right into another relationship, because oftentimes we feel in order to recover from a heartbreak, then we need to fall in love again. It just necessarily doesn't work that way. So you want to at least invest in friends, pick up a hobby, do something different and allow your heart to heal, allow yourself to reappraise, to be able to say, okay, these were my faults, this is what I ought not to do, or I should never do again in a relationship, or to also reaffirm your self-esteem that I have decided to say no because I do not believe in this, and not necessarily because I just decide I'm not going to settle for less. And breakfast doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has to tell you it's over. Sometimes you look at a relationship, you embrace the relationship, and you realize that I don't want to do this anymore, and then you just want to walk away. Don't forget again, the same reason why somebody will not want you anymore, another will pay $1 million just to have you. So never ever call it a heartbreak, just call it a hardship. It's something to help calibrate you and make you a better person. And of course, it happens over and over and over, but at the end of it all, you'll be a better person. And like I said earlier, when you suffer a depression from a heartbreak, does not necessarily mean someone is breaking up with you. Sometimes you have to make the decision to say, no, I'm not taking this anymore. I deserve better, and I want to let this person go. And when you let that person go, the irony is you still feel let down, depressed, and you still suffer a heartbreak, more so when you have invested so much in this relationship. When somebody says no to you, or when you say no to someone, it simply means new opportunities and of course new options. So you begin to explore new options, leverage on the support system you have around you so that you can get better and recover from this heartbreak. Mind you, it can be slow. Take it steady, but trust me, you're going to raise your head high once again, as long as you stay very, very positive and see it more like an exercise for perfection rather than an exercise that depresses or belittles you. Now, before we go, we're going to quickly look at some of those things that you should do immediately you suffer a heartbreak. Now, the first thing you want to do after a heartbreak is try as much as possible to be lenient on yourself, be forgiving to yourself, and count it as not as a loss, but as a good step in the right direction. You also want to try as much as possible to purge yourself. Purge everything around you that reminds you of this person. Those videos, those cute pictures that you took together, those pictures on the wall, those lovely, awesome, romantic text messages that he or she sent to you, delete them. It's over. Purge yourself so you can have a new lease to life, and you can make yourself available, to start a fresh relationship. Then the next thing you want to do is absolutely purge yourself so that you can, have a clear head to see better. And while you're purging yourself of images and reminders and anything that reminds you of this person, you try as much as possible to also do a very positive. There is no that you will have your weaknesses. You want to appraise your weakness, what you've done wrong, and what you think that in a new relationship you have to and definitely must do right. Knowledge is power. Oftentimes we make mistakes in a relationship because we lack the knowledge to pull through, maybe communication skills and what have you. So you want to learn so that the next time you're starting a relationship, you're putting a better version of yourself forward. Now, don't rush to start a new relationship. That's another thing you need to understand. Heal first. Give yourself time. Have a breather and then heal so that when you're going into a new relationship, you have a clear head and you can always take your time. You know, I often say this, that before a man walks up to you to say he likes you, he has done, a lot of appraisal of what he wants. And it's after this appraisal that he approaches you. I think our ladies also need to understand that when a man brings a proposal forward, you also want to say, all right, thank you. I like that you brought an appraisal to a relationship to me, but give me time to also ruminate and think it through. You do your appraisal, because oftentimes we just launch right into a relationship because somebody says they love us. Because they love us doesn't necessarily mean they are the best persons for us, or doesn't necessarily mean that we have to date them. Also, what you have to do is, when you now are ready to start a new relationship, don't talk to your new boyfriend about your ex. Leave it alone. Now, this is because sometimes we find ourselves with toxic people. When you tell them the pitfalls you've had in the previous relationship, they might just use it as a weapon against you or something to use to demean your person. Leave the past in the past. It's now history. You're better. You have appraised yourself. You take better steps in order to be a better person. So try as much as possible not to discuss your ex. Let him or her be the new branded partner that you now have. So don't drag what happens into the relationship into the presence, and do not let the new partner suffer from whatever. Don't take it out on them because something has happened and then you don't give it your all in the new relationship. Relax. Take your time. Give it up your all. Love again. Allow yourself to love freely and love completely. Because if you don't love completely, because you've been hurt once, you're still going to get into a major, major pitfall in that relationship, and the heartbreak might as well happen again. Now, so what do? Be yourself. Be happy. Love yourself. I'll tell you something that happened. I used to have a student who used to be very rotund and robust, and she was really massive. She had this massive house that I absolutely used to adore. But from time to time, she'll walk into my office and just tell me how depressed she is. And she felt she was less than the petite and the very slim colleagues of hers. And I used to tell her, don't worry, that man that is going to love this backside is going to come all the way from the end of the world if possible. Trust me, today, the man that she married fell in love with her just for the backside. So love yourself, accept yourself, be accepting of yourself. And on a final note, be prepared. Be prepared. Heartbreak can eat again. There is no foul-proof relationship. And when it eats again, take on the steps all over again. Be positive. Face life afresh. Learn, pick up yourself, love yourself, and do not love less when you do fall in love again. This is Double Narratives with Dr. Hanji. I'm absolutely thrilled that you've listened to me. And please don't forget, share my videos, subscribe to my channels, and do comments in the comment sections. I would love to hear your response on this. Thank you so very much, and